shoot.
Hello. No, live.
We're live.
We're live.
Live again.
That threw us, didn't it?
Yeah.
Who's expecting music?
Well, I did notice when Kelly was trying to do the music, I looked at the corner and it was muted, so that's why it wasn't playing any music at all.
Anywho, hello everyone and welcome to Fascination Street. I'm Jimmy.
And I'm Mika.
Now, we weren't here last week because it was my birthday.
Yeah, boy.
It was my birthday. So we took the week off and what a wonderful weekend it was. So
It was brilliant.
Anyone approaching 40, I can guarantee it's not as bad as it is. Seriously. And for everyone that was waiting, sorry about that. We've had a few tech issues. We have. I think we've got through it now. I think we're on the other side, aren't we? Are we on the other side?
Yeah.
We're on the other side.
Hang on, are we? No, we're not on the other side.
We're not on the other side. We're here, but we're not there.
Yeah, we're not there.
Right. Fantastic.
I think we confused.
So,
this show is sponsored by PMG Goods.
Got this. Come on, every week you get better at doing it.
Goods by clothing for our community, by a member of our community. And if you type in the code FS 15 off, you will get 15% off of your order if it's above $40.
Yay! He's getting better. He's getting so much better at it. He really, really is.
Wait, you be quiet.
I think probably by the year 2021, he'll have it down. And what we'll do is we'll have like a big, big party for Mick when he finally gets it like outright. So, how's your week been?
It's actually been really a good week at school, yeah.
Anything exciting?
Well, it's same old days.
It's been exciting. Anything? Yeah, same old days. Anything that's rocked your world this week? Anything that you've really, really enjoyed? School? Outside of school?
Same old days, really, if you know what I mean.
Any special deliveries?
Oh, yes. Yes, I will show you guys now.
Here we go.
Right, so you know that I keep on saying that I've got some special. Well, yeah, I actually have.
Yeah.
But I wanted to get the box.
Right. So come and show everyone. What have you got?
Right, we have got the Fade to Black t-shirt, and if you look in, it's signed, and the hat that I'm wearing, it's signed as well.
And only Fadernauts get those. Like the proper game changer Fadernauts get those.
for my UFO group, I get my very own 8 T-shirts. Yeah, because there was 9 in there. Wasn't there? There was 9 in there, and then you take away 1, so that's 8.
You can see the brains in the family are, can't you? Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Apart from turning 40, it's been a pretty easy week, really. I mean, a lot of people. So yeah. Sorry. It's been a pretty. Producer Sarah's got a new toy, and she's working out how to use it. Oh,
take the birthday cards for the old kids.
Oh, hush thy mouth, woman. Hush thy mouth. So, everyone, producer Sarah is with us tonight.
And Mika, so it's the host. Oh, dear me.
So, yes, sorry, new toy. Yeah. So there was a little bit of a problem. I couldn't find where to turn the volume down. Well, but I've got it now. I've got it, so I'm okay.
Would you care to address our public, Sarah?
Hello, public.
Yes.
Hello. Is that all you have?
Yes.
How's your week been? Anything exciting this week? Anything rocked your world?
Apart from planning your birthday, that was quite stressful until it all came together, which was quite a accomplishment.
And it was a real A-team moment, weren't it? Don't you just love it when a plan comes together?
It was. It was.
No cigar though.
No
cigar.
Oh.
But other than that, it's been an okay week. And we've now got Mika's birthday on Friday.
Hello.
So there'll be no show next week. Remember that, the 24th, no show because the little boy's birthday.
Yeah, homeboy's birthday.
Right. Thank you. Right. So that's it, really. Anything that's rocked my world this week? I've played a lot of Forza.
Should I show them which Forza?
No.
Okay.
So I've been playing a lot of Forza, and I'm loving it.
Limited edition.
And the Dandy Warhol's new song that came out the other day. Now, I don't know if you've seen it, but they brought it out on YouTube, and it is the first music video I've seen from a band that I like that's done in total 360. So if you're watching it on your smartphone, as the band are playing and doing the video, you can actually move it all the way around, and you can see the whole of the studio and everything. It's just so amazing. And keep an eye out, because there's some proper random bits and pieces that I didn't think, but it was that. And the song is so catchy. I mean, I'm a big Dandy Warhol's fan. I've been for 20 odd years.
Well, I haven't been born for 20 odd years.
I know. But yeah, the new single was absolutely blown me away. It was really good. So, on tonight's show, we have someone coming on that I've been a fan of for a while.
On tonight's show.
Sarah
Mika
looks
says
at the
ugh.
computer. Mika says ugh.
Ugh!
And Jimmy looks at the camera. So yeah, we've got someone coming on that I've followed for a little while, and I really like them. And tonight's show is actually more for me than for Mika, because
okay, right.
Is that it?
Yep, see you guys.
Mic drop out.
Is Mika Pearson out.
And yeah, I've watched the shows, and I'm fascinated by the whole sort of ideas that come up on there, and it's just a really, really nice show. And I've become, I'd say, pretty good friends with the lady that we're interviewing tonight, Kerry K.
So you gave away the location.
Well, not the location.
And I love how you said fascinating. Fascination Street.
That's why we are Fascination Street, because the things that we do are fascinating to us, and fascinating to our friends that
Yes.
join us on a weekly basis. I mean, we appreciate that you could be doing something really interesting.
Yeah.
You could be bungee jumping, kayaking, covering an array of extreme sports or outdoor pursuits, camping, fishing.
I see where you got the sports from.
No. That no. I thunk about that out of my own head.
Wait, hang on. You need to go back to grammar school.
I funked about it. Right. So by the magic
ready?
of the internet.
Are you ready to watch my magic work?
Here we go then. Let's get ready. Let's see if we can make Kerry appear.
No, not you, Dad.
I'm sorry. And any second now.
No.
No, didn't work. Let's do it again. Ready?
No.
Now.
Now. Now. Blueberries.
Blueberry pancake?
Yeah.
Mm.
If you know what I mean.
Okay. So while we're waiting, we only have one guest tonight because again, this is someone that I believe deserves their own show, and they can spend as much time with us as they like.
Yeah.
After we've spoke with Kerry, we will be touching on the Irish UFO incident that occurred last Friday.
Yay!
And there's Kerry.
But didn't you already sort it on Facebook? Don't worry, folks.
Oh yeah,
I've got it under control. The millennium.
There she is.
Hello.
Hello, love.
Imagine seeing you here.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, apart from a lot of technical difficulties this evening.
Brilliant.
We couldn't get up and running, and then this went wrong, that went wrong, but we're here, and it's brilliant. It's fine. I'm so glad to have you here with us.
Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Mika. It's great to be here, guys.
Right, so Kerry, are you ready for the bio read?
Always.
Are you sitting comfortably? Are you
got
braced?
Your cup of tea?
Yeah.
Keep on
love.
Got your cup of tea.
Yeah. Buckle up and prepare for takeoff. Right. So, Kerry. For more than 20 years, Kerry has had the privilege of guiding people's journeys into the ascension of human consciousness. As a psychic who specializes in higher dimensional communication, her work has taken many forms, from interspecies communication, ranging from interaction with the enlightened species in our own planetary backyard, such as dolphins, elephants, and whales, to higher dimensional beings, both terrestrial and non-terrestrial. To private readings, exploring the personal energetic signature of each person's evolutionary path, specifically the path of this lifetime, within the framework of a soul trajectory aimed at expansion and ascension. Kerry's energy is currently being redirected to teaching and reaching larger numbers as the collective human consciousness has requested support to make rapid and radical moves into higher consciousness, as well as ongoing support once that shift has taken place. Kerry K, the creator of the Samadhi experience. Samadhi means at one with. Samadhi, oneness, is a state from which all beings originate, a state of being that we are at various levels of returning to. When we hear the words that are spoken from the state of Samadhi, it activates that memory of home which is within every one of us.
Who is this woman you speak of?
I don't know. Do you know her?
No.
No.
She sounds amazing.
No. It's you, love. It's you. Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing in the world to hear somebody else read your bio back to you.
How did that work out? How did that work out for you? Especially in a British accent as well, right?
Ah.
Well, you know, the British accent I can handle because it's close enough to ours. I think if it was an American, like a deep Texan accent, that would have been double weird, but it was okay.
Yeah, I can't help you with that one, sweetheart. I'm no good at that type of thing at all. Do you want to have a go? Texas?
Howdy, Samadhi, I'm from Texas.
The volume, right?
You notice the roller coaster road, right?
Tonight.
Luckily, I don't use that here much anyway, so we're okay. We're good. So, Kerry K from Samadhi Speaks. Welcome to Fascination Street. You already know. I'm Jimmy.
I'm Rika.
So,
Hi, Jimmy.
Kerry,
Rika.
tell us who's around and a little about yourself that wasn't in the bio.
I like to bake. I like to cook. No, seriously. I'm a mommy to 3 wonderful people. And I have a son who's 12 years old. His name is Josh. And I have 2 little ones who are age 5 and 3. And they are complete and utter hooligans. And I spend a lot of my day. Nika, you would know nothing about this. You would know nothing about being a hooligan, right? No.
Yes, his mum is Kerry, trust me. They're all off camera. But one of these days, I will unleash the Hurt Locker. I will bring up videos of him having the tantrums and doing the naked singing and chicken dance. It's going to happen. It will be a real thing.
I can do the chicken dance right now.
Okay, and Mr. Kerry is... Your husband is...
I lost your... no, sorry, you just froze for a moment and I lost your audio. What did you say?
Mr. Kerry?
Oh, there's a delicious Mr. Kerry downstairs. And his name is Bryant. He's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. He is the man of my dreams. We only
see you on camera. We never see Mr. Kerry at any point. There's no sort of like real kind of like, hello, or sorry about that. Not cheap there, didn't I?
Oof.
Right, he's wonderful. He's wonderful.
And he's very, very supportive in everything that you do. And because I mean, how with all this family going on, how do you find the time to do everything that you do? Because I mean, your show's what, twice a week?
3 times, sometimes 4. So yeah, so I'm busy, and then I do, lots of readings and teaching and that sort of thing. And without him, I would never be able to be here. So he's often, he's the patient parent, and he's the good guy in the household. There you
go, ladies. See, us good men are still out there. We are out there. Yes.
Does that count for me?
Darling, I have no doubt you're going to grow up to be a good husband.
Wait, what?
Anywho. No, seriously.
That's it. I mean, poor you. You're just recovering from like the flu and that, and like you're already being broken by me. You're going to come out and your cheeks are just going to be like, oh, it really hurts. I'm never speaking to those guys again.
I am so used to it. I'm married to Mr. Comedy himself, so I get it. I have these muscles. These muscles work really well. Takes a lot to tire them out. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I've got that sometimes. So I mean, I remember the days like before, like marriage and parenthood. I was actually quite a happy person, and
I see where you went there.
You see where I went? I went there. So, Kerry. Right. So, now I know a little bit about meanness. Right.
Oh, we've lost him.
We've got a show to do here. Right, okay. So, I know a little about the meaning of Samadhi, but I know some in the chat room don't. Would you mind giving them a brief overview of the Samadhi experience, please?
Sure thing. It just so happens that I know quite a bit about that.
Get out of here.
So the Samadhi experience, I want to tell you about the Samadhi experience. Samadhi, as it came through in my bio, Samadhi is a state of being. So the English, it's a Sanskrit word, Samadhi. It's Sanskrit, and the closest English translation is at one with. So it's that state of being where you feel such a oneness with everyone and everything, including, and this is really what defines Samadhi, including the space between all of us. Now, I remember many years ago going on a dolphin swim, and I got out of the water, having swum with the dolphins. It was actually in Key Largo in the States. And I said to my then mentor, her name was Jan Weiss, I said to her, I don't know why it is, but for the first time, I was looking in the distance and seeing a whole lot of trees. And I said to her, for the first time, I'm seeing all the space around the trees and not the trees themselves. It's like the sky looks more alive to me. And she said to me, that's a Samadhi experience. And back then, I didn't know what Samadhi was. And I was really just captured and captivated by what I was seeing. I don't even think I would have had the mental faculties at that time to ask her, because I was so engrossed in the experience of feeling oneness, not even with the trees. I can't say to you that it was the objects that I felt that I was merging with, but the space around the objects, which is the energy field of consciousness itself. And that's the Samadhi experience. It's that merging with universal life force consciousness, where you no longer say, I am you, you are me. It's just, I am all that is. So it's a very rapturous state. And the amazing thing about it, people will hear, you know, God, what is Kerry talking about? Oneness and blending and merging with universal life force energy. They'll hear about this and think, oh, maybe this is something that's available later one day, you know, like when I'm really enlightened. It's obviously not for the average Joe on the street. They'll think that to themselves, when in reality, every person can connect to that Samadhi state so quickly. It takes a meditation, a few moments, and the will to do it, and anybody can connect with that state of being. It's available to all of us. You don't have to work.
Yeah. No, that's pretty spot on. I mean, it's I mean, I've been lucky enough to swim with dolphins myself, and that within itself is such a magical experience, isn't it? I mean,
absolutely.
Even I mean, there's no experience like it at all. I mean, it's something that I always wanted to do. When I finally got around to doing it, it was just such an unforgettable experience. And I think there'll be certain things that you come in contact with throughout life that will kind of help develop a certain aspect or a certain sort of like perspectiveness on certain things, isn't there? I mean, when you look at people, you know, they may not be a very spiritual person, but yet they get into hiking and things like that, but totally unaware that when they're doing it, it's like an active meditation. You are still feeding yourself, you're still feeding your soul, but just in a totally different way. Whereas some like to sit, some like to, I mean, when I meditate, I lay down. I just love the whole feeling of being laid down. I mean, it's like when you do the meditation in the show when I'm watching at the end, I am always laying down when you do that.
But don't you fall asleep?
No. There's probably maybe once or twice, maybe I've fallen asleep during meditation. Yeah, Sarah always falls asleep. Yeah, it's her favourite thing.
So hobby.
But yeah, no, I've never fall asleep meditating, laying down or anything, and it's where I feel the most comfortable, when I'm just kind of on that plane. I really do. So yeah, absolutely. So why did you choose Samadhi as the title? Was it kind of like just the universal, it's there, everyone knows what it is, or is it to kind of, for people that are less into the whole thing, for them to get out and research themselves?
Do you know, I've asked myself a couple of times, why did I call it Samadhi? Because the amount of people that say, so what is Samadhi?
Yeah, he's the guy that lives down the road. Yeah, Sam. Yeah, got the wife called Karen. Lovely guy. Small child. Dave.
Dave? Who's Dave?
Everyone's got a child named Dave, Mika.
Yeah.
So
Everyone knows someone called Dave, and normally they're dodgy, love.
Sorry to all the Daves listening. I'm sure he didn't mean it.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially if my
I-
friend Dave's watching.
Hi, Dave. So I do question my sanity, but here's the thing. I grew up with this name, Kerry. That's my birth name.
Yeah.
And it always felt wrong. And it felt so wrong that when I was 18, I got on an aeroplane and I flew over to the United Kingdom. Don't know if you've ever been there before.
No, never heard
Never
of it.
heard of it. No. Didn't think you had.
The United States.
Yeah, in Texas, right? I heard your accent just now, Mika. I'm on to you. I know.
Howdy, I'm
Pretending.
Dex.
Kerry. No Texas. No more Texas. My ears can't take it.
So I lived and I worked in the UK for about a year, but on the plane ride there, it suddenly dawned on me, I'm going to go to a country and nobody's going to know my name. And I've always felt that Kerry doesn't fit me. So I had this epiphany. I'll change my name. I'll introduce myself as Jade. Don't ask me where it came from. It was the first name that popped in my head. I got off the plane and I was Jade. And for 2 years, because my 1 year working holiday turned into 2. So for 2 years, I was Jade. But the amazing thing is this. I still didn't feel like the name was a match for me. So I went back to Kerry, which was great because I came back to South Africa and nobody got confused. I just landed back and I was Kerry again. And over the years, I have realized that no name will ever fit me. So when I was choosing a name to describe the work that I do, at that time, I had Samadhi on the brain and I thought, but nobody's really going to resonate with Samadhi. And I thought, good. Then they'll know how I feel. To not resonate with a name, you've got to go. If you feel you don't resonate with your name, for me personally, this has been my lesson. I've had to learn to discover who I am beyond my title, who I am beyond my name. So I've had to learn to feel into what is the essence of me and identify myself as that rather than any name. It's just, at a time, I thought it was the curse of my life that no name is ever going to fit me. And now I accept that no name does really fit me because I am not my name. I am everything, but I'm not my name. So Samadhi was an interesting one. It was a really, really interesting one. I chose the name knowing that it wasn't really something that rolls off the tongue. I felt very deeply connected to the experience of Samadhi, but I thought this way people have to feel the essence of what Samadhi means. And I know how to take them there. Hence Samadhi.
Yay. No, that's cool. I mean, it's the same as anyone, really. I mean, you're right. No one is their name at all. We are as we are. We're individuals. And, you know, to begin with, when we first start out, that name is given to us. It's not like, you know, we're kind of there for a few years. We've kind of developed our personality. We've developed this, that, and then someone's like, do you know what? That guy over there, he's definitely a Barry. He's definitely a Phil. Right, Dave, how are you? You know, and it is. And in the end, I don't think it matters kind of one jot, whatever your name is, and you just resonate with each other rather than the name. You know, I mean, how many people do you resonate with them rather than their name? You don't think to yourself, oh, look, there's a Steve. I like Steve's. Hi, you know, you don't, do you? It's just not a. I mean, like, the amount of, well, it's like Mika. I mean, he's always like, well, my name's unusual. But I was like, you've got to look at it. Your name means godlike. And like, we were told for so long that we couldn't have children. And then out of the blue, he just turned up as a miracle. So kind of a gift from God, a higher force, a miracle. So godlike makes sense. And, you know, in Japanese, new moon. So
I just came out of nowhere. Hello. I'm Mika.
That's it. I said, yep, we were just living a perfectly normal life. Then all of a sudden,
Just
this
Christmas,
happened.
and
It happened.
and then a clown car just comes along.
So, but yeah, it's yeah. I mean, what is a name? What is a name? It's, you know, it's nothing that defines us as a character, as a person, as a spiritual soul, as a
It's a
connection to
title.
other people. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you know, you might sort of like bump into maybe another Kerry that you've met and be like, oh, hi Kerry, I'm a Kerry too. But that's the only thing that you will probably have in common.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah. So for as much as possible, I don't do titles and I don't do labels. We use them every day. You know, be kind of weird
yeah,
if I didn't greet my kids by their name. But as much as we use them every day, we've got to live beyond our titles and our
yeah,
labels.
absolutely. Yeah, you can't have like that one, and the one over there. I mean, you know, talk about giving you complex from an early age, right? Straight out the gate, your kid's got a complex.
Well
And as I
done,
said, you know,
Kerry.
yeah, well done. Woo, solid parenting. And like I said, like a little while ago during one of your shows, you know, it's easier to build strong children than repair broken adults. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's kind of what we
Yeah.
put into that, and it's a big thing. So, how did your spiritual journey begin, Kerry?
Wow. You know what? A lot of people have this moment, Jimmy, like they'll say, I had a dream, or this happened, or on this day, like they can say to you because they remember when it initiated, they remember the beginning. And for me personally, I have no idea where it began, but it was always there. It didn't begin one day. It was always there. So I explained to you my identity crisis around my name, how I felt like I didn't fit this name. But in childhood, I had a really strange set of circumstances. I was born to a Jewish mom from a very strict Jewish home, and she married totally out of the faith, totally unexpectedly, and she left the faith behind her, and she married my dad, who was a Christian Afrikaans man. So this is like chalk and cheese. This is, you know, polar opposites, and these two somehow met and married, and I think they loved each other perhaps just enough to give birth to myself and my brother, and that was the end of that marriage. But the amazing thing is that it introduced me to two religions in my childhood, and I was plagued. I was absolutely plagued in my childhood with which one is right. I would obsess at night. I would lie in bed going, which one is right? What if the Jewish religion is wrong? What if the Christian religion is wrong? I was in deep fear on both sides, because both sides were telling me that if I didn't convert and devote myself fully to that religion, that I was going to be doomed and damned.
Wow.
And I was scared of being damned. I was really scared. So I grew up with this very big, for me personally, it was a huge burden to bear. Now, the backdrop to all of that religion confusion is that I was having conversations with my mom that at the time I thought were completely normal. For example, we would, like, you and Mika are so close. You obviously have conversations about life and boy talk and just everything in between, what you feel about things. So my mom and I had this really great relationship, like you and Mika do. And we would talk about life and stuff. And part of the normal conversation with her was talking about extraterrestrials, talking about auras, talking about spirits and spirituality and reincarnation. And I never understood why she would always end those conversations and say, don't talk to anybody else about this. Because it was such a normal thing for us. So she would end these conversations with, don't talk to anybody else, obviously, because I was going to be teased at school or nobody would understand. I thought it was normal.
Yeah.
Later, when I reached high school, I realized, oh, wow, I am neither one of these religions. I am a spiritual being. Like the penny dropped. The penny took many years to drop. But when I realized that I had cultivated a deep connection with the divine, and that I had an intimate knowing of creation, the creator, of universal energy. I knew what that was. I had felt it. I'd felt it every day. I'd had visitations by that stage. So my connection to spirit was finally my liberation in realizing, whew, I don't have to choose. It's not about being Jewish. It's not about being Christian in my world. The liberation and the freedom that I felt was intense and immense. And it was followed by an amazing vision. I can bore you with the details of it, but in this vision, I got exactly that message.
Yeah, we want to know all about you. Yeah, warts and all. This is you, Kerry.
So here's the story. So I'm 12 years old, and I'm walking my very first day at a new school. It's high school now, and I'm walking with my suitcase in hand up the road to my new school. And it just so happened that school started every year on my birthday, on the 8th of January. Very terrible day to be born in South Africa, because that was, for my entire school career, school always started on the 8th of January. So there I am, 8th of January, walking to school, suitcase in hand, and I didn't have the words. If you would have asked me at the time what happened to you, I would have probably said something like, oh, I had a daydream, because that was the best way I could have described it. It was later on that I realized that wasn't a daydream. That was a vision. So what happened was, I looked down and I can see it so clearly. My bag, I even have this view of my little bobby socks and my school shoes. And I looked down and suddenly my suitcase got really heavy. So I thought, oh, that's weird. And I put my suitcase down. And something told me to look up in the sky, and I did. And as I looked up in the sky, all of the clouds in the sky converged, but really quickly. They converged to create a picture. And the picture, made out of clouds, was picture of Christ on the cross. And as I saw it, I felt relief, and I felt, oh, this is a message. This is a sign from God telling me that the Christians are right. So I can ditch Judaism and I can go with Christianity. Yes, I finally got the sign that I'd been asking for and begging for all of my 12 years. There it is. And this being made out of clouds gets off of the cross and he starts walking towards me. But I'm very calm, totally calm. You know, no part of me is freaked out by this. And he looks at me and he says, neither one is right and neither one is wrong, but you are the same as me. I didn't quite understand what that meant for many years. That was the confusion. The you are the same as me, that part I only put together years later. What I really needed was the first part, neither one is right, neither one is wrong. So there was my moment of being liberated from religion and being validated in my spirituality. And when this being said to me, this being who was Christ from the cross, looked in my eyes and said to me, you are the same as me, I felt it. I didn't hear it. I felt it and I knew it in my heart, in my being, in my soul. It became my absolute truth. It felt, that vision felt like it had taken ages. And I thought, oh, I've missed the first day of school. How am I going to explain this? And I remember hurriedly, because the whole thing was really long and drawn out. And I hurriedly picked up my bag, looked at my watch, and not 1 minute had passed. Not one single minute had passed. Well, I would have said to you, oh, I think it was a daydream, because that was the best I could have kind of chalked it up to at that time. So that remains one of the most blatant messages I've ever received in my life, and I've received many, but that was a truly, truly blatant message, and I needed it so desperately so that I could leave behind the desire to be right in the eyes of religion, and I could then truly be me and really just enjoy being a spiritual being. That's what I came to be. That's what I came to do. So at 12, I was liberated from religion, and I was just walking a path knowing I don't know what I'm going to do in this world, but I'm the same as Christ. So, hey, I can do anything. He told me, he said, I'm the same as you. It took me years to realize that what he meant was everybody else is too. You're the same as me, and so is everybody else. None of us are different. that came later. But there it is. That marked my real full awakening into spirituality.
No, that's wow. I mean, like 12 years old with that going on. I mean, that must have been such a trip. Just even trying to make head nor tail of it. I was, I mean, at least
Yeah.
most people kind of make it like their own option to gradually get into it. But there, you've kind of got this going on, and it's just sort of like full on like aversion therapy, isn't it? It's just like bam, it's there. But again, it was
Yeah.
validation for what you needed to hear at that time.
I needed that at that time because otherwise I would have become so invested in religions and I wouldn't have focused where I needed to focus, which was on my spiritual growth. And because I had all the backing of my mom and those conversations with her, conversations about UFOs and blah blah blah, it was already normalized. So I just got to lose all of the inhibitions and I got to lose everything that could have ever held me back. So that was my celebration day. That really, really was.
Yeah, nice. I mean, it's surprising. I mean, with like the amount of people that end up going on a spiritual journey and the things that can put them there. I mean, there's some people go through so much trauma. Some people go through other like real bad things, and you got others that do it as a lifestyle choice. I mean, spiritual
Yeah.
journeys per se. I mean, everyone's so unique in their own way, their own approach, and again, just their whole journey in general is just so unique to that person. But yet,
Yeah.
we all have the same goal at the end, and that's
Yeah.
togetherness, oneness, and just kind of, I don't know, the joint share of just love and happiness for each other and everyone. And I mean, like me, I mean, I know you're very active on social media, and there hasn't been enough of that lately. And this, at the moment, it's something that we really need to focus on, work on more, because
Mm.
not everyone is right, not everyone is wrong, but yet
Mm.
we're all intelligent enough to know that to get to the truth, we need to work together. And the only way we're
Mm.
ever going to get that is by loving each other. And that's it,
Mm.
Just because that guy doesn't agree with you, it doesn't make him a bad person. And sometimes people just need that little bit of love just to validate that not
Yeah.
everyone's bad. All right, fair play. I believe in what I believe in. You could be a nuts and bolts kind of guy, but that's not going to stop me relating with you on something and thinking, do you know what a really lovely person.
Yeah.
It stands to reason,
Mm.
Kerry. It really does. And
Mm.
we need to kind
You
of get
know,
it out there a little bit more.
I like what you're saying there, Jimmy, because and it's really close to my heart what you're saying, because a lot of people, particularly people in the spiritual community right now, are diluting their focus. And this is honestly just my opinion. And this is how I see it. They're diluting their focus by focusing on all of the divisive stuff, like the stuff that can create divisions within humanity. And yeah, we need to be true. We need to look at the political scene and understand what's really going on versus what the media is telling us. So there's a level of wake up and smell the roses that we all need to come to. But once we've come to that, move on and get into your heart. And everything else, Jimmy, in my opinion, everything else becomes a distraction from the journey into love. And we don't need those distractions.
And a lot of it is
really,
kind of put towards us with that very, very, very same agenda that they don't want us getting together. They don't, because the biggest thing for them is they fear everyone getting together, being the same, feeling the same. Because when people start doing that, that's when people are more, not dangerous, but more, trying to think of the
powerful.
correct word. Thank you.
Powerful.
And that's why there's always the divide and conquer and everything like
Yeah.
that going on, because they're just so afraid that that could happen. And then no matter who we are, what religion we are, what race we are, you know,
Yeah.
the biggest fear is us all coming together and being able to do something spectacular, which I have absolutely no doubt on this planet at all can be achieved by everyone.
Yeah.
So it's in their best interest to keep us apart with these stupid divide and conquer tactics, without a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. And we invest in all of these divide and conquer tactics as if they matter.
Yeah.
You know, we become so invested in which president we like and why, and then we become defensive of it. And that's okay. It's okay for all of us to have opinions. But when we become so opinionated that we alienate people who've got different opinions to us, what are we doing? What really? I just lose people's logic when they will unfriend because you like Trump or you don't like Trump, or you like this or you don't like this. God, even if a person makes the wrong assumption, the wrong deduction, the wrong conclusion, they're still worthy of our love. So,
I totally agree. I really do. It's, I mean, love is without doubt, it's the most beautifulest thing, but yet the strongest weapon as well. I mean, love will always outweigh war, no matter what.
Yeah.
And the only reason we have war is because there's always profit to be made, which is why there'll never be peace all the time. There's profit to be made from war.
Yeah. Absolutely. And more people are starting to see through it. More and more people are starting to wake up and see, oh, well, I see the corruption here. I see, like, exactly what you've just said now. I see that there's a trap in our current modern day culture, which is so materialistic and money orientated. And the moment we can start to see through the stuff, then we can start to liberate ourselves. But I think that's what gets stuck. They start seeing through all the lies, they start seeing through all of the illusions, and then they get caught there. They get caught there and they start being defensive there about who knows about this and who doesn't know about this, and conspiracy this and conspiracy that. And don't get me wrong, I mean, I grew up being a conspiracy theorist. That was that was the closest thing I had to religion growing up,
Right, absolutely.
But what it really taught me was see through the veil, see through the lies, think for yourself is ultimately what it taught me. And then go beyond. That's the message. Jimmy, if I could hold a banner up for every conspiracy theorist today in big neon lights, my message would be go beyond the conspiracy stuff and get into love. Go beyond what you see. Don't get caught up there, because that's another trap. And we can all hang out there for another 1,000 years and then we'll move forward. But I'm not into that. I'm way too impatient.
At least you're honest. Other people would probably blame something else. But no, just be out there. I'm just impatient. I haven't got time for that. But no, it is. And, and I think it's a time, because, I mean, like I was saying on one of your shows, we have a serious kind of energy paradigm shift right now. I mean, with the way that the world's going, with regards to either money, power, this, that, the other, or even the earth moving on its own axis, there's there is such a shift of everything going on at the moment. I mean, how do you kind of sort of like see that happening with the change of everything? So I think we covered this on one of your shows a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah, there's so much going on the planet on every conceivable level. Like the people waking up, that's one level of transformation that's happening on the planet. And when I say the people, I'm talking the children have already awoken. I always say about my children, and you probably feel the same about Mika, when people say to me, how are your kids? And they're so amazing. People like to tell me, oh, your kids are so amazing. And I always say the same thing, and that is, they're doing such a good job of raising their mom. And it's the truth. The children are the ones who are already awake. They were born awake. They were born conscious. They don't need to learn what we need to learn. So when I say that one level of transformation taking place on the planet is the people, let's exclude the children and say, for the most part, these guys have already got it. They're already awakened. They are the masterful ones. And we, the adults, need to be egoless enough to catch up to where they are and what they know and learn from the masters. Because if you think about it, they're younger than we are, which means they're less indoctrinated than we are. They're more pure than we are. Their connection to God and to Source and to that cosmic home is far more recent than our own. So, of course, we must learn from them. Of course, we must connect to them and let them lead us. I think that's the one transformation that we see taking place that's the most critical is adults getting off of their ego trips. And a friend of mine, she talks about sexism and racism, and she says we forget about childism, which is this way in which adults speak down to children and berate them and belittle them as if it's okay. And it's not okay. So human beings awakening with children leading the way. There it is. That's one level of transformation that we're seeing taking place. But then the planet itself is transforming. And we see the planetary transformation in two ways. The first way in which we see the planetary transformation is through all of the recent cataclysmic stuff. So whether we're looking at volcanoes or we're looking at wildfires or we're looking at tsunamis or we're looking at anything cataclysmic, we can see that's one level of planetary transformation. Now, if you listen to anybody who follows space, they will say to you that we are in a approach towards solar minimum at the moment. And what that is a precursor to some massive earth changes. So even though we may not be seeing them at the moment, I think everybody can feel that feeling like something's going to blow, something big's going to happen. You know, we've probably all watched too many Armageddon movies, but it's now implanted in the psyche of humanity that on the ground level, things are going to start shaking up. But the importance of planetary awakening that we see is what we feel, not what we see externally. It's what we feel. We feel when we connect with this planetary energy, this being that we know as Gaia, who is the goddess that is the planetary body itself. Gaia herself is evolving. Gaia herself is in the process of ascension. So that's the second level of planetary transformation. On an energetic level, we are not living on the same planet that we were born to. This planet has already moved into a higher dimensional state from the one we were born to and will continue to do that, is continually doing that even while we sleep. When we wake up tomorrow, the planet, because it's happening so quickly now, when we wake up tomorrow, the planetary frequency, the planetary energy will have elevated, even if it is just subtly. But put that together in a week, put that together in a month, put that together in 6 months, in a year, we're living on an evolving planet that is shifting so quickly. With the planet shifting, we're shifting. So the humans are shifting, the planet is shifting. It's undeniable. Ascension is underway.
Absolutely. And do you think a lot of the Earth's energy at the moment is due to mankind per se becoming more awakened as well, and that energy that we're using for meditation, we're now pushing back into Earth?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
because we've got so many initiatives and that are going on at the moment, you know, like mass meditation initiatives and things like that. You have thousands of people all around the world, all meditating at once and things like that. So I don't know. Did you participate in the DC one last weekend?
No, I was hosting my own. But yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
But I mean, you know, things like that. I mean, you had the one earlier on in the year in Los Angeles, and these events are screened all over the world. They're all totally free and things like, and you know, there is. I mean, you think I mean, I'm only just over a year old in the community. I
Wow.
have no real sort of like prior knowledge of ufology studies. You know, I've always been slightly spiritual, 100%, you know, and I've always kind of brought Mika up the same way. I mean,
Hi, how are
yeah, that's Mika still. He is still here. And I've always kind of, there's a quote that I heard once, and I do live by it for parenting. And it was, tell your children to look out the window, but never tell them what to see.
Okay.
Oh, I
And
love that.
not literally. And that's the one, you know, you see what you want to see and you see it how it is. And you're right, you know, when it comes to sort of like indoctrination and stuff like that, I mean, there's no child that's ever born sexist, racist, homophobic, transgenderist, or anything like. It's all characteristics that are taught, whether or not be social, whether or not it be through the internet, whether or not it be through TV programs and stuff like that. I mean, realistically, I mean, I don't watch TV, do I? Apart from if it's a research
Formula
documentary or
Formula
motorsport.
One.
That's the only things I watch on telly. I'd stay away from reality TV because I think reality TV has become the absolute crucifix of society nowadays. I really, really do. I don't think it's good. I don't participate in it. And
Dad hasn't been watching the news, and
yeah, I stopped watching
just
the news, didn't I?
non-stop. When he normally got home, it was the news. And then when it started to stop, I was just like, oh? Because it was one of their favourite things to do. Sit down and just watch the news. And then suddenly, when the California fire came through, then that was the bit where they didn't start watching it. They read the website. They didn't sit down and watch it because nowadays they have lies in it. They clickbait, basically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
we've never I mean, apart from when he was very, very small, we've never treated Mika any different. I mean, you know, what are the main things that we've always said to you?
You said to me you will never lie, you will never keep anything as a secret.
Unless, of course, it's birthday presents and things like that.
Oh. That is not a secret because you just told me I have birthday presents.
It's never. We never lie to you.
No, you've never.
We never keep secrets.
I never remember the last time you actually didn't tell me anything or tell me any secrets.
I mean, like, it's the same with the show. I mean, because Mika, you know, Mika is the show.
I am the show.
That's the bottom line. Okay, I got it up and running. I've done most of the podcasts and stuff like that. Mika is the show. And, you know, we have different bits and pieces. Like when Kelly said about interviewing us, everything went through Mika. He is as equal to this as I am, if not more. And I would never do anything to put my child under undue pressure because that's not what we do as parents. And I mean, Mika knows that I'm a very spiritual person, right?
Yes, that's true.
And when he was 8, he hiked up Britain's second highest mountain to raise money for charity for Save the Children.
We kind of made a mistake. We were supposed to be on the right track because we took a ramp that was slowly going up. And then Dad said, we're doing the wrong way. And we took the freaking one up in the middle. It was bloody the middle. So, like, it was the middle stage.
You did just say that?
And I was just like...
He did. You know, you
that.
sound like Josh. Yeah, carry on. This is like a normal conversation with my son, yeah?
And then what happens is there's also some bits where you can also, what's the word, rock climb? Yeah, rock climb.
We luckily missed those bits.
Apparently there's been some lives lost there as well. So
but we stopped halfway up.
Yeah.
And we had a real kind of father and son moment. And I mean, Mika knows that I've always identified more kind of to the Buddhist religion than I have with Christianity, even though I'm from a very strong Irish Catholic family.
Right.
I've always identified more with the Buddhist side of things because, you know, with the Buddhist side, I think you're as equal as the God or as the prophet, if you prefer, than being fundamentally judged constantly by them, by what you do, what you don't do, how you be. And, you know, for Mika, I mean, he is at a church school.
Yes, that is actually true.
What he wants to believe is what he wants to believe. And I would never say to him, look, that's not the way. You know, if it's for you, if it's the way that you go in, it's the way that you feel, then embrace it with both hands and love it emphatically. Because again, you know, it's like your spiritual journey, my spiritual journey, his spirit. Again, we're all so different, but yet we're all on different paths, but to the same goal, you know?
Yeah. So who cares how we get there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's it makes no difference. And the thing is as well, is like I've noticed along the path and that, I mean, since being in the community, I've met a lot of really, really good people that have helped me along the way, like Joy, yourself, Holly Marie, you know, and you've got what I would call the older heads on shoulders, not necessarily age-wise, but you know.
Showing.
Pseudo cream does that an absolute treat, sweetie. It's what I use every night, and I don't look a day over 60, do I?
No, you look really good. Oh, you look pretty good for 60.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and that's the way it is. And I don't know whether or not, you know, when people have that moment or whatever, whether or not it's just an intentional channeled moment or whatever. Because I mean, you don't exactly wake up one morning and think, do you know what? Today's the day I'm going to pack my bag and I'm going to go on a spiritual journey and it's going to be brilliant. It doesn't happen like that, does it?
Exactly. It just
So
happens.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was, you know, supermarket one moment. The next thing you know, I'm stood on top of this mountain and I've dyed my hair blue and have a bone through my nose, and it was all beautiful. You know, so
That could be a good look for you.
Well,
what's the difference between what you do and channeling?
Oh, that's such a good question, because it raises an important point, that one that I feel really strongly about. Now, when I first started, now I'm going to show my age. I've been at this for quite a while, working in this field of supporting people in raising their personal consciousness. I've been doing this for well over 20 years. And when I first started out, I would channel. So I would feel, for example, okay, this is Mother Mary coming through, or this is Buddha coming through, or this is Saint Germain coming through. And it was really popular. And I used to have these huge meditation groups. And people would come and meditate with me. And at the end of the meditation, or during the meditation even, there was a channeling. And I remember one day, this very disgruntled man, oh God, he was fuming, furious. He left in a rage, and he was the first person ever that demanded a refund on the spot. And I was quite taken aback. And I said, but I thought you really enjoyed the meditation. He said, I loved the meditation. He said, but I vehemently and adamantly disagree with channeling. And I said, why? And he said, because you could be channeling anybody that calls themselves Archangel Michael, that calls themselves whoever, and you could be channeling the Smurfs for all I know. And I'm just not into it. And I'm really angry that you've exposed me to it. And for many years, I thought, he didn't know what he was talking about. Time marched on, and I've always had a really strong connection to my own higher self. Well, higher selves, I think we all have more than one, but nevertheless, I've had this really strong connection to my soul and to my higher self. And that, thank goodness, has always been my primary teacher, my primary source of information. And I one day got this really clear message from my own higher self, and it was, stop channeling immediately. And you can imagine how shocked I was, because the only negative person I'd ever had regarding my channeling was that one man. Everybody loved it. I loved it. It was really popular. And here was this message. It's like somebody saying, whatever you do to make money in the world, because remember that this is how I support myself. It's not just my passion and my calling and my purpose. It's also my bread and butter. So there's this stop channeling immediately. That's like saying, turn off the taps to your business instantly. And I knew that I had to, and I knew I couldn't argue, but I did get to ask why. I didn't understand. And what was told to me was this by my higher self, and it was, at this time, just prior to ascension, there is a lot of division between dark and light. And the light is becoming lighter, and the dark is becoming not only darker, but also more desperate. And in their desperation, they're seeking to maintain their hold on humanity by whatever means necessary. They all hang out in the astral realm, I know that. And when you channel, you go there into the astral realm in order to channel. And there are a lot of trickster beings who will dress themselves up as whoever you want them to be, whoever you resonate with. Anybody can dress themselves up with, cloaks of gold and a big smile and all the right words, and all the wrong energy. And as a channel, I could very innocently and very inadvertently bring through who I think is Archangel Michael, but who could land up being a trickster energy. So my higher self gave me this really firm, stern warning, and it was absolutely no more channeling. Prior to ascension, nobody should ever channel, because of the amount of astral interference and the amount of manipulation that goes on in the astral realm. So your days of channeling are done and over. And that was round about 2010 that I got that message, somewhere around there. So yeah, no channeling from me. I connect with my higher self, and and my higher self will often connect to other beings. And if it comes from my higher self or from my own soul, because that's a signature energy that I really connect with, and I know very well, and I resonate with completely. It's like a fingerprint. It can only ever be yours. So the soul energy for me is such a trusted energy. So if my soul says to me, this is coming through from another being, from Buddha or from, whatever other being, cool, then I'll listen to it. But no more channeling from me.
So relying heavily on your own consciousness, you don't use any spirit guide, have any spirit guide, or?
I used to, part of my work was I used to do spirit guide readings. I now call them soul readings. And in a spirit guide reading, I would connect with a person's spirit guides, but for exactly the same reason. Because of all the trickster energy, that sits in the astral realm, I don't do spirit guide readings anymore either. However, in a soul reading, a person's soul can tell me about the guides and the higher selves of the being that I'm reading for. And, so I can still get information about so-called guides or even of that person's higher self. For me personally, I've learned that our guides are ultimately our own self, just in various other forms. Our guides are not separate personalities. They're not separate entities. They are aspects of our own soul communicating to us. So when you understand that, then it makes sense really to go to the soul. Always go to the person's soul. So that's what I do. That's what I teach people to do as well. And that's what I read now. So if I'm one-on-one with a person, I'm going to connect with their soul and bring through whatever their soul needs them to know.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's like, I'm not gifted in any of that area at all. And as I say, I'm just starting out on my journey with regards to stuff like that. And Joy was absolutely fantastic in bringing bits and pieces to me. the work that she'd done with me and other bits and pieces like so. And I mean, the earliest thing that I've learned from the start is trust the gut. The gut never lies. Get that feeling, don't ignore it, because there is clearly something there that's giving you that vibe.
Yeah.
And
It's
I think
the truth.
if anyone was ever going on that journey, I mean, my first bit of advice to give to them would be just trust the gut. The gut doesn't lie. You pick the vibe, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust yourself. People always say, oh, I've got trust issues in life. And I say to them, that's okay. You actually don't have to trust anybody else. You do, however, have to trust yourself. And if you trust yourself, you will become a very good judge of character. And all of those so-called trust issues will fall away. But when people say, I've got a trust issue, all that means is that they need to learn to trust themselves. And we all do. We all need to learn to listen to ourselves, because that's really the starting block. Listen to yourself, connect to yourself, then the trust becomes obvious. And once self-trust is in place, you trust life.
Yeah. And it's the same as love as well. I mean, loving yourself, you know, you can't give love to other people unless you love yourself and you love yourself wholeheartedly. I mean, it's like I've always said to you, isn't it? When you get older, it doesn't matter who you love or anything like that, just as long as you love and you love wholeheartedly, isn't it? And, I mean, these are things that kids should be taught at school, but they're just not. They're taught
because the school don't want to share this stuff with you. And then when you find out in the real life, then that's where the complaint comes in.
Exactly. I mean, where do you find the most education? I mean, what works better for you? Is it being at school, or is it?
You didn't learn that, like with the ancient Egyptians, you didn't learn that the pyramids were even placed there before.
Yeah, the timelines were out and
no
things
one
like
tells you that. That's because if you talk about aliens to your teachers, like some of them, they know that I believe in aliens, and they think I'm a bit of a nutter, and some of my friends think I'm completely a nutter, just feeling like, and you know what I keep on saying to them?
What's that?
When you see a beam of light, don't come running to me. Because I keep on telling them there's people out there. We're not the only people in the world. Don't come running to me. Beam of light, boom, done.
Yeah.
Don't come running to me for help.
That's it. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, when we was talking, I mean, was it your show on sustainability a little while ago? I mean, why are kids not taught this? The sustainable communities, it's like that. I'm trying to think who you had with you that day, because that was really interesting.
Yeah, it was Fernando Vossa and it was Alosha Linov. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those guys, I mean, again, like, as you know, a lot of the people that come on your show, I'm not accustomed to, because I'm still relatively a baby in the community. But yeah, I mean, these are things that kids should be taught in school, where we're kind of getting into this new way of life, the way the universe is going, self-sustainability, affordable housing, and all of those things. I mean, why are the kids not taught about these things?
Because, like I keep on saying, it's too dangerous for them. Because if they mention this in school, you're probably going to get expelled as a teacher, because you're teaching these what they want you to not do. If you, for example, I say we're not doing maths today, and you go and do maths anyway.
That's it. Yeah, you're rebelling against it, and it's not.
And why should you not tell us the proper things? I'm here sitting at home, literally like, the hell are they talking about today? And then I'm just like, hang on a minute, you guys are wrong. Because if you look on many websites,
He knows
Where?
research.
Where?
Yeah, absolutely. Now you know why he's my co-host, right?
Where does your information
all right,
come
all right.
from?
As a sidestep, what type of things do you do you wish you could learn at school? I mean, obviously from your own personal. I mean, obviously gaming, Xboxing, things like that. That's not included. We're not going there. But all joking aside, what type of things do you think that you guys should be taught at school?
We should be taught all the secrets that we're supposed to know. Not like the secrets, meaning like what's behind the cafeteria. Not that kind of secret. I'm meaning like the big secret that they're keeping.
You think there's a big secret?
They could be a big secret because some of them are. Teachers don't do that. They're like that.
Absolutely. Do you know why?
And they go like that.
It's because a lot of them have learned exactly the same way that you've learned, and they've learned a certain system of the way
and the weird thing is, when they say it's that answer, they go, "Oh, sorry, no, the wrong answer," and I'm just like, "Hang on, hold your horses." I think you need to hold your horses and search on Google. Because Google's the best thing to use.
Yeah.
See,
it's just that the teachers just never want to teach you the real reality.
Do you know what? I'm gonna knock you sideways here.
Okay.
I'm old enough to remember a world without Google. We had to use these paper things called books. True story.
I remember that world too. And there were things called encyclopedias.
Absolutely. I sold all my encyclopedias when I got married because luckily Sarah knows everything. So win-win.
Oh, Jimmy. You didn't.
Right. Yeah, no.
Can I just tell you something? We're talking about schooling, right? And I so agree with you, Mika. I so agree with what you're saying about the fact that you're only being taught a tiny little piece of information. Yeah. So it's the equivalent of getting a tiny slice of a really big pie, and you're going, where's the rest of the pie? Because this little slice isn't cutting it. And one of the things that I would love to see taught in conscious schooling would be teaching kids how to work with energy, because they are all innate energy masters. So one of the things that I love to do with my oldest son, Josh, and he really loves it as well, is we play all kinds of energy games. So you and Mika should try this with Sarah. I think this could be something fun for you guys. So take, for example, anything you like eating. Take a strawberry or an orange or an apple and divide it into 3 segments. So one is for Mika, one is for you, and one is for Sarah. And each of you holds that segment of fruit in your hand, and you just put your focus into that piece of fruit. So you imagine you're focusing on it, and you're imprinting that piece of fruit with your energy. Then one person needs to mark the fruit so that you know whose is whose. You give it on a plate to Mika, shuffled all around, and you say, Mika, taste these 3 pieces. Which one tastes like this could be mom's and dad's and yours? And the first time that I did it with my son Joshua, he took a bite of this fruit and he went instantly, like he didn't even bat an eyelid. And I think he was about your age, Mika. I think he was about 9. And he didn't even bat an eyelid. As he bit into it, he went, oh, that's dad. Obvious. I know exactly whose that is. That's dad's. And I said, why? And he said, because it tastes all blacksmithy. And my husband really likes to work with steel. So in Joshua's mind, he just saw a blacksmith. So he says, oh, that's dad. So, and he was dead right. And then the next one, he takes his mind and he bites into it and he goes, oh, that's mom's piece. Absolutely. And I say, why is that my piece? And he says, well, because it's all soft and squishy like mom. No offense taken, young man, but I got what he was saying. And then, of course, the third piece left, like, that had to be his own piece, and he tasted it, and he described his own energy. What was really interesting, and this is how I knew that he 100% got it, because it was like for the first time, he was analyzing his own energy field, what it tasted like and felt like. And he said, wow, it feels kind of not quite here, not quite present. And the interesting thing is that Josh has never been very present. He's always floating somewhere. He's never in his shoes, you know, he's ungrounded. You guys would be great.
Absolutely. It's one of the best bits about his character. You never know what's going to happen. You really don't. I mean, he really tones it down to the camera, but even then, sometimes it's still way too loud. But
you don't.
It's,
prior to me coming upstairs to do this interview, Joshua was downstairs with my pink sun hat on, waltzing around the lounge like a complete lunatic. And he had 2 Coke cans over his eyes, pretending they were binoculars. I mean, this is my... you think you're a nut, Mika. You've got competition.
I don't know. He stole my mankini last year.
Oh, God, not this again.
He got into my mankini. He had a full stormtrooper helmet on from Star Wars, and he was running around the house in just that. And my just no.
No, my stormtrooper mask.
That was lucky.
Stormtrooper mask.
Right, so what we got from the...
We don't have anything. We've only just got Dex and Lizzie in.
Wow.
All we've got at the moment we've had is Paul, Jeanette, and Kelly, and they've all been very quiet, so it's all been extremely interesting.
Wow, there we go. Everyone must be interested. This is the first time I haven't had questions at this point of an interview, so we must be mesmerising. Are you okay for time? Because I appreciate it. Must be getting on late there, darling.
If my head just flops over on the keyboard, then you know I've lost it. But for now, I'm good. Thank you.
That's sweet.
I'm good.
Okay, right. So I know you remember various incarnations, different star systems.
Yeah.
That was in the bio.
Yeah.
What races do you remember reincarnating as?
Many. Which is quite lovely because I've gotten to experience myself in different bodies. And that's been really, really fun because I've often felt very inhibited in this human body. And I have felt myself in one of my most favorite experiences of remembering was I was in Lyra. This was one of my original lifetimes. And it was one of my first incarnations where I had come in as an individuated being. So by that, I mean, it was one of the first times that I had individuated from Source itself. And I felt myself as a keeper of nature. Now, a lot of people would use the terminology. They would say, okay, so that was like an elemental being, because they think of those beings as fairies or elementals. And I couldn't possibly use that word elemental because the body that I was in was like a mountain. It was absolutely massive and huge, and not quite as big as it wasn't quite physical. So it was almost ethereal. I remember being able to move through objects, through trees, through oceans, through the air, on the ground, off the ground. So it was a really interesting life form. And a keeper of nature is the best way that I can describe it as. I think if we on this planet saw a being like that, we would say that it was a giant, but a colossal giant, the kind of giant that if you stood next to it, you would maybe be ankle high. So it was an absolutely massive form. But as massive as it was very ethereal. And then I remember other humanoid, lots and lots of humanoid forms. I remember being on Sirius, interestingly enough, with my present day wonderful husband, who I love and adore. I remember being with him uh, in a Syrian incarnation, and the bodies looked honestly so similar to these bodies, except I think if you walked past a Syrian body in the street, you would go, wow, that person is really fit and really toned and really healthy, because everybody is. Everybody's got this phenomenal glow, this real glow, and these beautifully tanned skin. So the epitome of, we would call the epitome of health. That's really what it looked like, except uh, a higher density or a higher consciousness to these bodies. So I remember very clearly that lifetime. Um, and what other bodies? Oh, I remember like a relatively tall blonde. People would call it a Nordic race. I remember being a Nordic being with, but I never, I didn't enjoy that body at all. I was very uncomfortable in that body. It was too tall and too lanky, and I didn't fit into it. It was a very muscular body, and that was in the Pleiades. That was a lifetime in the Pleiades. And I remember being a teacher in that lifetime, and I remember having to go from planet to planet within the Pleiadian system. And because I have that memory, I remember many different places in the Pleiadian system and just coming across many different life forms. So yeah, it's, you know, for me, past lives, it's the equivalent of watching a movie, in that it can be really entertaining, it can be really interesting, but don't get hung up in it. Don't get caught up and don't get hung up in the movie, you know?
Yeah,
Um, there's educational value in every movie. You can learn something, but don't let it define who you are.
yeah. I mean, I've never had anything like that. I've never had visions of previous life. I mean, although I'm very open to the concept that it's a
Yeah.
real thing, because more than enough people have come forward to suggest or even say that they've been there, they've seen it, it's happened to them and stuff. And so a lot of these people, you know, are people that I regard as friends now. And
Yeah.
I've never had anything. Okay, you have like a flashback once in a blue moon, and you're like, wow, where did that come from? Or you have a certain bit, and
Yeah.
you're like, is that something that I watch? Have I been watching too much Game of Thrones? Am I? And you just,
Yeah.
a lot of the time you can kind of write it off as that, can't you? But I mean,
Yeah.
I wonder how many of these people go through like a day-to-day life having these visions of bits and pieces, but it's not something
Mm.
subconsciously that you've watched on TV. That was actually you at another time in another
Mm.
place,
Yeah.
same body, same face, or
Yeah.
because there's someone that I do a lot of work with, and I mean we've only known each other for a little while, and we threw it out to someone a little while ago whether or not we have worked with each other in previous lives or other bit,
Yeah.
and I mean the answer we got back was quite interesting. So again, I'm so open to the concept because
Yeah.
it's strange how all these people that you meet. I mean, there's people that I've met since I've been in this community that, you know, miles away, other side of the world. I've known them for
Mm.
a little while, but yeah, they feel like they've always been part of you, part of your
Mm.
family, and that's always kind
Mm.
of intrigued me how that have you ever
Mm.
had that? Like maybe you've gone to school or you've gone to a party, and you've
Mm,
met someone, you've got talking to them, and you're like,
yeah,
do you know what? I'm sure I've met you before.
yeah. I've done that many times. I've done it in the alley because I remember a boy that was year six, and I was like, no, I think he was around about year five or year six, yeah. And I was only a year three then, and I remember this kid constantly bullying me, and then the day comes, I'm walking up the alley, and I'm just like, oh. And I keep on looking, and I was just like, oh God. And it was the boy that kept on bullying me at school with one of my friends, Harrison. Well, he used to be my friend. And he said, "Are you the one that I keep on bullying?" And I was just like, "Yes, I am." And he was just like, "Oh, sorry, mate, I was in a bit of a state." And I was like, "Yeah, I know you
Oh.
are." Because he was so stressful then. And, you know, like, it's just the bit where people bully. It's horrible. You know what I mean?
It is.
That's an amazing thing, Mika. That's such an amazing thing that he could acknowledge that he was in a bad space at that time.
And then especially to open up to you as well. I mean, that takes some doing. So there must
Did
have
you
been a certain
forgive him,
amount of.
Mika?
Well, it was quite a hard thing to do, isn't it? To stand up to a bully. It's horrible when after many, literally couple of years since I've, it's horrible to just be bullied because it's normally happened now, but now it's started to calm down because you know I'm just.
But I mean, going back to that, I mean, people that we meet like I mean, because no one, there is no coincidence. Everything happens for a reason. Everyone is a teacher, and whether they teach us a good lesson or a bad lesson, nonetheless, a lesson has been taught. So everyone we meet is a teacher, and again, you know, some of these people we feel like we've known forever, even though we've only known them for a couple of weeks or. You know, it's bizarre. Are you good for a question from the chat room?
Sure, I can do a question
Right, let's
for
spin
sure.
you around to Sarah. Sarah and Dougie.
Hello, Sarah. Hello, Dougie.
Dougie, can you say hello? No, he's good.
Oh. Hello, Dougie, love.
Okay, we have a question from Dex, our own UFO Gandalf.
Yay!
How long have you been incarnating on Earth?
I don't know how many years it's been, but I'll tell you how many lifetimes it's been. I've had 4 lifetimes that I remember on Earth, and the first one was just before the time of Atlantis. So if I knew exactly when Atlantis was, I would be able to give you a time span in years, but I can't give you a time span in years. But 4 incarnations, the first one just before Atlantis. So yeah, it's a couple of 100,000 years at least.
Wow, that is truly amazing.
Well, we're all infinite beings, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's whether you remember them or not. That's the thing. It's whether you're able to go back and actually see them, to replay them, to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
That's the way, and that is truly amazing. In fact, he's just put another question up. Have you been to other star systems in between that?
Yeah, definitely. So I didn't hover around this planet. It was kind of like dipping a toe in the water, figuring out what it felt like here, and then going off somewhere else. And so I've done a lot of cosmic traveling, and I think it's really individual to the soul whether they will do a lot of traveling to other star systems, or what I notice just in my readings, what I notice a lot of souls doing is hanging around 1, 2, or maybe 3 primary constellations. So for example, they'll hang out at the Pleiades, or they'll hang out in Andromeda, and they'll do a number of lifetimes there. But for myself, I remember doing a multitude of lifetimes in different places. So yeah, I would do like one on Earth and then be gone again for a couple of lifetimes, and do another one on Earth and be gone again. So yeah. But I want to just tell you something on that note. Sarah, talking about remembering previous incarnations, some people would hear that and think, like you said, like, wow, it's amazing. And actually it's not. You know how I started connecting with prior incarnations was this. I remember, and I don't know why, I've just always had this memory. I remember being a baby. I remember being a little kid. And then I remember thinking to myself, well, if I can remember my earliest school days, surely I can remember being younger. And so I did. I just let myself relax and I let myself just go there in my mind. And eventually I remembered being born. And I would tell my mom about the things that I remembered. And my mom would always have these huge eyes and go, oh, shock, horror. I can't believe you remember that. It's impossible, she would say. How do you know this stuff? So I realized, okay, she's validating what I'm seeing. But then I realized if I can relax myself to that point, that I can remember being born, then I can remember before this incarnation as well. And I can just keep doing that same thing. I can just keep relaxing and going back, relaxing and going back. And I don't think it's actually any special skill at all. I just think we're not used to having these conversations. So as a result, we don't let our brain go there. And I believe that everything is recorded inside the cells of the body. And everything, there's a living, your body is ultimately a living library. So if you relax the cells of your body, you can envision an opening of the library. And your soul's always in charge. Your soul will only let you remember what you need to at that time. So I believe that anybody can actually regress themselves, and I believe that we're all capable of a lot more recall than we think we are. It's just the recall is not in the brain. That's not where the recall is. The recall's in the cells of the body.
Right, okay. Okay.
Is that all we have?
It is at the moment.
Okay, cool. Right, so back to the boys. There we go.
Hello,
We do like interacting with our chat room. We really do,
Yes, we
because
do.
the guys that we have in there pop out some awesome questions, and
But just maybe tonight's a bit casual.
no, they love it, because you can always get a measure of your chat room by how quiet it is, and if they're quiet, you know they're
Done.
enjoying it. I mean, that's how you can always tell if I'm enjoying something, because normally I'm quite prolific. Yeah. So if you don't
it's
say
like
that,
eating a good meal, Jimmy. It's like eating a good meal. You just got to appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. Now, the way it reads on your website, it says you've done interspecies communication. So, can you enlighten me a little bit more on that? Because that was quite fascinating.
That's a whole big topic. So, and it's one that I love very much. I don't even remember how I met her, but somewhere in my very early 20s, I met a wonderful woman by the name of Jan Weiss. And Jan was from Texas. That's why I love that accent so much. And Jan, yeah, don't do it, Mika, don't do it.
Quietly.
So she had this innate ability to speak to, for her, she would speak to dolphins and elephants. Those were the two species that she connected with the most. Anyway, she lived in South Africa for quite a while, and at the time of her living here, I really got to mentor with her a lot more than most others, because she didn't have a car and I did. So I was clever. I said, I'll take you wherever you want to go, because I knew if I could be her chauffeur, I was going to get more and I was going to learn. And she was just a powerhouse of information. This woman was so psychic and so wise, and I just couldn't get enough of what she had to teach. So I was very clever, you see.
Well played, lady. Well played indeed.
Oh my God.
So Jan phones me one day and she says, we've got to go, some address in Johannesburg in South Africa. She says, we've got to go here. There's traumatized elephants. And the news had just broken that there had been a number of elephants. I can't remember exactly how many. I think there were as many as 20 elephants who had been confiscated from a particular handler because this handler had beaten them and abused them. And what had happened as a result is these elephants have become incredibly aggressive to humans. And there was a strong possibility these elephants were going to be put down. So they had they were known as the Tuli elephants, Tuli. That was the name of the place where they had come from. So we went to the Tuli elephants, and these elephants were not happy to see humans. And Jan spoke to the people who were the caretakers for the elephants now that they'd been confiscated. And she said, I can work with these elephants. I can get them to trust me. And if I can't work with them, there's a really strong chance we're going to lose these elephants. They're going to be put down. So what do you say? And eventually this guy agreed. And of course, I tagged along. So what I watched her doing from a distance is I watched her connect to the elephant, and I watched her hold an apple in her hand, and I watched her put this apple out in front of the elephant. And it took her quite a while. It took her probably about 45 minutes to get this elephant to trust her enough to come and take the apple. And that same morning, she got close enough to the elephant to stand next to the elephant and just stroke his head like this and his ear. And a real bond had formed with these elephants that had been absolutely brutally tortured. So, I mean, many of them still, it was appalling. Many of them still had cuts where they'd been whipped and their bodies looked terrible. Anyway, over a period of days, I drove her back and forward to these Tuli elephants, and I eventually got to work with them as well. And that was how I got introduced to interspecies communication, was working with these wounded elephants. And she taught me really how to connect with an animal in the way that animals connect with each other. And that is, they feel information rather than speak information. They feel information to each other. So it's really telepathy. And she taught me how to feel the information to them and how to listen by feeling what they feed back. And it was actually really easy for me. I did that, and following that was really my beginning. Following that, I worked with dolphins, and following the dolphins, I worked with baboons. I worked in baboon rehabilitation here in South Africa.
That sounds like a very cool job.
That was amazing. Those baboons taught me so much about what it is to be a conscious being on the planet. They're funny. They're individual personalities just like we are. Their sense of humor is off the charts. I mean, I would just be in stitches all the time. And they are clever. They are, you get intelligent and you get wise. They're both. They're highly intelligent, but they're also deep and soulful and wise. So that was amazing. I got to work with baboons for a couple of years. I don't remember how many, maybe about 5 years. I did baboon work, and that was amazing. So when people say, "Where did you learn, Kerry? Where did you learn what you know?" My answer is one human being, who was Jan Weiss. That was the one human being that ever taught me anything. Because and I don't say this disrespectfully, I say this with deep compassion, but the other human beings who I was exposed to just wasn't at that level of the other beings that I was connecting with. Beings like the dolphins, the whales, the baboons, the off-planet beings, the multidimensional beings. These were my teachers, all of them. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So is it only like the earthbound animals that you've been able to communicate with, or while you've been incarnating in other cosmic systems, have you been able to communicate with other animals elsewhere?
Yeah. Do you mean in this lifetime or in other lifetimes?
No. During other incarnate, while you've been
yeah,
other star
because
systems, and that have you?
Yeah, because that's
I'm interested to see, try and understand. I mean, types of animal. I mean, is it the same kind of animals we have here out there? I mean,
what's really interesting is that we're used to Earth, we're acclimated to Earth, so we think that all other life is going to be like we see here. And it's not. We have got such diversity of animals and insects and birds, and it does not happen on many planets at all. Most planets have got very, I don't want to say few as in numbers, but few as in not as many diverse species. So some planets, for example, have really only got what we would call human beings, or, the ones like us. There's a lot of planets like that. So no animals, no birds, no bees, no anything else, no other life forms. Then where you do have planets where there are animals and other life forms, for the most part, my incarnations that I remember, so I can't speak for every planet and everybody's incarnations, but for the incarnations that I remember, I was always in a higher dimensional state of being. So what that means is that it is absolutely normal as a fifth dimensional being and higher. It's absolutely normal to have telepathic conversation with all sentient life. So whether as a fifth dimensional being, whether I was communicating with somebody of my own bloodline, or I was communicating with a so-called animal of the planet. An animal, by the way, is just such in our language, animal is such a derogatory term, isn't it? Like we say,
absolutely.
But we're animals. We're animals. We have this inequality in our perception. So we perceive animals to somehow be less than us. But on other planets, when you're dealing with beings of true sentience, true consciousness, they do not distinguish importance, they do not distinguish hierarchy, they do not eat the animals, they do not have a one-upment on any animals. Therefore, it's completely normal to have conversations or connections with other species and with other beings. And this is an interesting thing for me, Jimmy. A lot of people, especially in the ufology community, a lot of people will say, oh, I really want to, meet an alien. I really want to connect with a being from another star system. And that's great. Go ahead. Have that desire if that's your desire. I'm not going to talk you out of it. But here's what I do say. If you cannot communicate with the other beings in your own backyard, think about Earth's backyard, think about all the animals, think about all the insects, think about all the other species that share this planet with us. If we don't know how to communicate with them, how do we think we're going to communicate with other beings? Because for the most part, that conversation is telepathic. So if we were wise, we would be practicing with our higher consciousness beings, who are all primate species. All primate species, they are, for the most part, of higher spiritual consciousness than us. Connect with them, connect with dolphins, connect with whales, connect with elephants, connect with dogs, connect with cats. Although be aware that house pets tend to carry the consciousness of the owners. So that's a different ball game. I've only ever worked with wild animals, but nevertheless, connect with the animals and speak to them. Learn to speak to them telepathically, and you may not know how. In which case, just go there with an open heart and say, I don't know how to do this, but I'm willing to connect with you, and I want to connect with you, and I'm telling you that heartfelt desire will be heard. And that being will communicate with you. And even if you're slow, you'll get something. Maybe you'll get a feeling. Maybe you'll get an idea. That being knows your communication if it comes from your heart. So I think interspecies communication is something that should be taught at school. We were talking about schools and how they could evolve. Interspecies communication is something that we as an evolved society, we would be normalized to. It's normal on every other planet of consciousness. Here, it's a bit of an anomaly, but it can and it does happen everywhere else.
I mean, the only thing sort of like really connects. I mean, if you're empathic, or you have a higher sense of empath, or
Yeah,
anything like, then obviously you can make connections a lot easier. I
yeah,
mean, for normal people and that, I mean, they might just walk in. I mean, it's like when you walk into a room after like an argument, and you've always got that stagnant
yeah,
energy that still remains.
sure.
And I mean, I've always been one of those that I can walk into a room and I can pick up on something straight away. I'm normally pretty spot on. I'm normally pretty good with people as well. Within a couple of minutes of being near someone, I'm like,
Yeah.
and I don't think I've normally been far wrong, have I?
No.
All right, we've got another question. Excuse me. I will pass you over to Sarah.
Okay, we've got a question from Paul, Kerry.
Yeah.
It is, have you seen octopus on other planets?
Oh, good
Oh yeah,
question.
definitely. Definitely. They're a very, very advanced life form. And I'm sure Paul knows on this planet they are very advanced life forms on this planet. But in their home planet, and no, I don't know what constellation is their home planet, they are incredibly intelligent and advanced life forms, way, way beyond what we can even comprehend. So, yes, that's the answer, definitely.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Is that
It is for the moment.
fantastic?
Yeah, I'll let you know if another one comes in.
You're all right. You are. You should do this more often.
Oh, thanks.
Right. Oh, Cam's moved a bit. Right, there we go. So, right. Okay. So, with such a fantastic collection of cosmic and earth consciousness, how do you know what guests to have on your show? Because, I mean, as you know, I've watched many and also participated in the chat room, and you always seem to have such an amazing array of guests that kind of tap in to either your consciousness or they tap it. I mean, like the last one that I watched was when it was about the divine feminine, and we had the meditation afterward. I mean, that was brilliant. I mean, the one before that, the divine masculine one that you've done. I mean, both of those back to back were fantastic, Kerry. They really, really
Yeah.
were.
Yeah.
And you made my legs go.
That's a good thing.
It was very, very weird.
Well, we all experience spirituality in our bodies. And our bodies have this little telltale, like I notice some people have a jerk and some people have a deep in-breath or a deep out-breath. The body has a way of letting you know when it's tapping in and tuning into divine frequency. But anyway, how do I know? I don't. I let my soul choose. I have a really great trusting relationship with my soul. So sometimes, like I've interviewed people who I don't know at all. In fact, the next 3 Tuesdays, those guests on my Tuesday shows I've never met before. I've never spoken to. I don't even know what they sound like. So that'll be fun. But I know that they're the right people. I have no part of me doubts, no part of me hesitates. The name comes to me and I'll get a yes or I get a no.
That's fair enough. I mean, it's the same as me. I always go for people that I resonate with, or people that interest me, or people which Mika. Well, I mean, we've got on the 1st of December coming on, we've got the Sandia Mountain Crew. I don't know if you're overly familiar with those guys.
No, tell me who they are.
Sue and Otter. They're from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and behind their house is a Sandia Mountain. And they've been channeling aliens that live underneath or within the mountain itself.
Cool. Wow.
And Mika absolutely adores the whole story. He adores the whole thing because the way that they've done it as well is there are sketches available online of each one of the aliens, or sorry,
Wow.
the Zetas. They don't like to be called aliens. They don't like to be
Yeah.
boxed. They don't like
Yeah.
to be called greys because that'd be the same as calling us a white or a brown.
Yeah.
So they prefer
Yeah.
to be called the Zetas. Um,
Right.
and they also have friends as well. They can communicate by telepathy. And if you go onto their site, they actually have a telepathy primer 101. They have a great set of. What I'll do is after the show, I'll send you a private link to their site because
Oh,
it is
cool. Please do.
beautiful. I mean, the first time I heard them, what show were we listening to? It wasn't Fade to Black. No, we heard them on a radio. No, it was Eric, Awakening Man, one of the guys that we follow because he goes all around the US. He goes to every conference. He goes to like these really cool little like gatherings in these places. And I remember seeing them, him talking to them because he does live video while he goes as well. And I was just like, that's really cool. And then they're talking about Sasquatch
Yes.
and how they are kind of all interlinked in one way or another because of obviously being interdimensional beings
Yeah.
and stuff like. And then there was pictures of the young ones, and then they come out that they've got one called Radar, and he has a good friend who is a young Sasquatch. And
Wow.
Kerry, even for your children, it is just beautiful.
Wow.
It is. It's a truly amazing thing, and we've become so immersed in every show that they've been on because they did do one with Jimmy Church, and
Yeah.
that show was fantastic. And
Oh,
I don't know if you're
amazing.
familiar with Reverend John Polk.
No.
He does a show called the Quantum Matrix Hologram, and he
Right.
had them on. And then Eric, who originally I found it from, he was also co-hosting that night, so he managed to get a little bit more out because where he'd met them before. They also have a lecture that you can watch on YouTube. I'll link
Yeah.
that to you as well. Honestly, it's such a
Oh,
fascinating thing.
stunning.
It's a show that we are so looking forward to.
I really want to tell my lovely story that I always still remember.
Go on. I'm sure Kerry would love that story.
Let me hear.
Obviously, we go to bed and I was fast asleep. And I had this really weird dream that Radar and Peter came to the house and they were having a party in my room. And then this flash of beam. And then they're gone. And then the next morning I say to Mum, I've had this really weird dream, love. And she's like, what? And I said, Radar and Peter, I think they came to our house last night. And I saw a flash of beam. And I was at school that day. So, yeah. And the weird thing was, I woke up at 12:48. And the weird thing is, I never wake up at that time. And that's impossible for me to wake up at that time.
But what happened the next day?
The next day,
Mummy sent a message, didn't she?
Yep, she sent a message when I was at school.
To the lady who
And
channels.
when I got home, I was in for a surprise. Everything that I just told you happened. Everything.
Apparently, he'd had a visitation through a dream.
And so they basically put the memory, they've either gone like that, or they've touched my forehead. They've either hovered or touched.
But why did they come to you in a dream?
Because it's telepathy.
Telepathy.
That one, yeah.
And it's an easier way for me to understand them and meet them. Because, for example, I'm awake and, I haven't got my telepathy up correctly. I'm not on that stage where I can just go, hey, what's up, guys? How are you doing? I can't just do that.
But you had no fear or anything, did you?
I had no fear.
And it was nice.
I woke up in the morning just like this because I was thirsty. And the weird thing is, I just had such a dry mouth. I know.
No.
It's weird to wake up with a really, really, really dry mouth. That's like one of the best
Such an
things
interesting
ever happened to
story.
me.
I love that, Mika. That's such an interesting story. I love hearing about that because, I think a lot of us do have visitations in our dreams.
Yes.
For a lot of us, we've got a lot going on at night when we sleep, and we don't have recollection of it in the day. And that's how sometimes know something without really knowing it, or something happens and we'll go, oh, but I knew this was going to happen. A lot of that stuff happens in dream state, or we get that information in dream state. So what we just chalk up to a gut feeling, we could have had deeper conversations about that in our dreams.
And just, and when you wake up, you just feel like, hang on a second, did that really just happen? And you just forget about it for a day. It's like nothing happened.
Yeah.
I think sometimes some dreams are so real that they are actually real.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It actually felt like I was moving as well, but I wasn't really, because I haven't sleepwalked for long time now.
Yeah, she used to sleepwalk as a
I
small
used to
child.
sleepwalk.
Oh.
I looked like a zombie when I was sleepwalking, actually.
Bless you. So, when you do your shows, you do a meditation. Do you channel those meditations from your own consciousness or from your higher self?
That when I do it's an interesting thing. I never know what the meditation's going to be about until I'm speaking it. So sometimes I'll have a feeling, like a vague idea about the overall message of the meditation. It might be, for example, about healing or love or the divine masculine or whatever. Sometimes I'll know that, but that's about as much as I know. So as I start speaking, what I do is I connect to the group who's listening. And that includes the people who listen to the recordings, because, of course, as you know, you can have a live audience, and maybe it's a small live audience. Maybe there's 7 people in the live audience, but maybe there's going to be a total of 10,000 people who are going to land up listening to that recording.
Yeah.
So no matter what the number is of people listening to me live, I tune in to the overall number of people who will ever listen to that recording. And then I've got my audience. And once I've got the audience, I connect with my soul, connects with their soul. And there's a conversation between the two souls, between my soul and theirs, about what they need to know. And then the words just start flowing. So it's my own soul that gives me the words, and all the nuances in my voice, all the energy that it's conveyed with, that comes from my own soul. But my soul is getting it from the audience's oversoul. So the collective soul of the audience that's tuning in. So it's an interesting process.
Yeah, because I mean, every meditation that I've done with you during your show, I've always had some kind of like result. If I know it's probably not the right correct term, but
but you'll feel something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. This is from our good friend Tanette. What do you think deja vu is?
I think it's just deja vu.
No, it's not French.
What was that, Mika? I didn't hear.
Deja vu.
Deja vu.
It's just a catchphrase, really.
Oh, a catchphrase, right.
You just go up
to it could be a really good. Deja vu. So it could be a catchphrase, but what I think it is, because my son Josh gets a lot of deja vu, a lot. Like, he can go through days where it's really difficult for him because he'll say, I'm having such right now, and he almost stops in his tracks because he knows the next word that I'm going to say. He knows, let's just say, for example, it's not even a big event. Let's just say I'm dishing up lunch, and he'll know what's going to go on the plate, and he'll know what it's going to look like, and he's memorized the whole scene, and then he watches it play out. So I've never known anybody to have such intense deja vu as he does. So I've done quite a bit of thinking and asking and researching into what exactly this deja vu is. And what it is the soul coming back and reviewing the situation for a second time. So the soul remembers it the first time it happened, because the soul is an infinite thing. It exists in all time and all space. So that soul was present, and I'm going to use that very odd situation where my son was having lunch. His soul was there observing it the first time it happened. Now that soul has come back and he's observing it for the second time. And that filters down into the body as a memory, which we call deja vu. But then a bigger question is why? Why is that soul observing the same situation twice? And my answer to that question is because there's something really important going on at that particular time in a person's life. And the soul is there kind of making sure that the person is getting all the messages that they need to. It's a pivotal time. So when you get deja vu, you've got to know it doesn't matter what the deja vu is about. It's a message that you are in a critical time in your life and you need to pay attention and you need to connect and you need to tune in because your soul is tuning into you. That's how you know it's deja vu. It's the soul's memory that trickles into your physical form.
That's fantastic. I mean, is there anything else that happened? I mean, obviously everyone's aware of the 11/11 thing. I mean, is there anything else sort of like connected around that as well that not a lot of people really pay a great deal of attention to that they really should?
Yeah, sure. There's actually so many things. I wouldn't possibly be able to list them all, because if we did this, if we tuned into the subtleties of life, for example, if you think about the first three colors that come to your mind right now, not your favorite three, just the first three colors for you and every listener, just whatever they are, just think about them right now. And some people will have the experience of saying, well, for example, I don't like yellow, but I'm thinking yellow. And, oh yeah, okay, orange, I always like orange. And it's an interesting shade of green. So look at the three colors you like. Were those your colors?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
you said
absolutely.
yellow. You said yellow. I had pink and purple.
Yeah, yellow because that's my favorite color. Green because it's Mika's favorite color, and I like orange. My lounge is terracotta orange.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah. No, sorry, you say behind it. Yeah, it's actually actual real thing in everything.
Yeah.
That was my three colors that I picked.
Jesus Christ.
What was the chance of that?
Well, the chances are really high because I'm tuning into you. So as I'm talking to you, I'm really connected to you. So it's, yeah, the chances are really high that these kind of things would happen.
Just think of my other colors.
So
leave it now.
So what happens when, and by the way, this is something I do when I do readings for people. I ask them for their three colors. I ask them to think about their three colors. And I ask them to tell me the three colors. But as they say the three colors, I've got the exact shade in my mind. So you could say, for example, blue, a person tells me blue, but if I've really tuned in, so I use it as a barometer. If I've really tuned in correctly to my client, I will know exactly what shade of blue they were thinking of. So I'll say to them, okay, you've got blue. Is it like a turquoise blue? And they'll go, yeah, but it's more on the greenish side, more like a teal color, for example. Then I'll go, oh, okay, I was a little bit off. Then I go into the next color with them and they'll say it's an orange. And I'll go, well, is it a bright orange? And they'll go, yeah, it's a really bright intense orange. And I go, okay. So now I'm lining up more with them. And then I go to the third color, and the third color's got to be spot on for me to know that I'm really lining up with their energy. So it's my little test. That's how it's what I use to connect with people. But what I was going to here with this thing about connecting with colors, every single color has an energy field to it. And if you just feel what any one of those three colors feels like for you, So Jimmy, you'll take that orange, for example, and you'll feel that orange, like you'll feel it like a mist or like an orange cloud around your body. And you just let it soak into your body and you go, oh, that's what orange feels like. Because do you see, school teaches us to become very head-based. So we would like to analyze, what does orange mean, and what is orange a signifier of, and all the analytical stuff. But if we paid attention to what we feel, even if you couldn't explain it, even if you couldn't explain what that feeling was for you, the subtle nuances of being able to tune in to anything like a color frequency and be able to say, this is the feeling that it brought to me, or the feeling that it evokes in me, that starts tuning you into a different way of thinking. And it's not with your brain, it's with your being. So there's a level of wisdom that you can start interacting with when you begin perceiving life beyond the limitations of your intellect. And that's what I would say to a person is really important. Like, very often people say to me, what does 1111 mean? What does 3333 mean? What does this mean? And I'll say to them, don't even worry about what it means. What does it feel like? What does 1010 feel like in your body? What is the 555s, whatever it is? Let it be translated into a feeling. And immerse yourself in the feeling, and there's the answer. So a lot of the questions that we all ask, that we say, oh, I wish somebody would answer this question for me, your body's got the answer. Your body actually has the answer.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I mean, the way you described it there, it was, again, going back to the name thing, because we say it's orange, you're orange. But when you describe it more like that, and you say, I want you to feel orange, I wonder how many people start to get the taste buds of the taste of an orange. The happiness that gives on a, and it did, because that's where I went with it. By the way, what shade of green did I have?
It was a really interesting shade of green. It was like it's not a shade I can easily, it's a darker green. It's not a lime green. It's on the other side. So it's like I would say it's silvery green is the wrong description, but it's the closest I can give you. A dark leaf green.
Should we go with an Aston Martin racing green? The older cars, I mean, the newer ones are all lime green, but the older ones are kind of a dark, silvery green.
Yeah, you might wanna.
That's the one.
I'll send you a picture afterwards, and you can see that. Right, what we'll do is, Kerry, we'll start to wrap it up a little bit now, sweetie, because obviously, as I know, it is very late, and I can't believe we've been going for 2 hours, 20 minutes.
Wow.
That's not bad for a 1-hour interview, is it?
You did good.
No. Do you know what? I still even got bits and pieces left. So I guess that means that you're going to have to come back again, if that's okay.
I would love to. I'd absolutely love to. And when I come back again, I think what I'll do is I'll get Josh to come and sit next to me. And what we can do is play with energy balls, because it's so much fun for kids to learn how to play with their energy. In the same way that you learn to throw a ball, you can learn to hold an energy ball. It's fun. It's even for adults, it's fun. Something we should all learn to do.
Whoa.
Good grief.
What was that?
Oh, the huge moth.
Don't tell Sarah that. She'll be taking cover. Sarah's not a fan of
it.
I'm not great with moths either. I might scream for my husband to come take it out just now. It's really big.
It looked like it. I wasn't too sure if it was like an albino bat or something sort of like indigenous to South Africa.
Don't look.
Right. So, one last question before we wrap it up.
Cool.
What are the main things that you've learned on this journey, and the advice you'd give to anyone who's considering embarking on a spiritual journey or has just started out their own spiritual journey?
Oh, it's such an easy answer. Such an easy answer. Don't listen to anybody else except yourself. That's my answer. Is we immerse ourselves with books and a teacher of this and a teacher of that, and that's great. But let me tell you the best teacher. The best teacher you're ever going to find is the one that teaches you how to connect with yourself and find your own answers. Nobody else's script, nobody else's answers except your own, because then you're just a puppet. And no matter how amazing the book is, no matter how amazing the teacher is, they do have limitations. So my goal when I teach courses is not to teach people what I know. It's not. It's to teach people how to connect with what they know. So if you're embarking on a spiritual journey, connect with yourself and do it in really subtle ways, because all of those subtle ways put together land up teaching you how to tune in with yourself. And just take the things we spoke about now in the show, like the thing with the colors, learning how to tune in with the colors. Learn the next step after that is you'll learn how to tune in with your feelings. Then you learn how to tune in with your vibrational field around you. All of these things are exercises in feeling and connecting on a non-linear level. Do that. Practice that. And that's a really good way of helping you to connect to yourself and then to your wisdom. And that's the answer. Listen to yourself. You are beyond what you think you are. You are so wise. You are so clever. You are so loving. You are so gifted. You are so divine. Why would you let anybody else tell you who you are?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kerry, that was fantastic. Really, really was. Do you want to give a shout out for what you've got coming up soon and when your shows are?
Well, tomorrow is every Sunday for the last 6 Sundays. I've been interviewing a wonderful man who I was very surprised to find right here in South Africa. His name is Colin Joe Byrne. And I interview Colin on Facebook Live every Sunday at 7 p.m. South African time. So that's 5 p.m. GMT. And everybody else can just Google your times. It's somewhere mid-morning and early morning for various parts of America. So go ahead and Google the time. It's 5 p.m. GMT tomorrow, Sunday, Colin Joe Byrne. And then a really, really lovely one that I'm doing is on Saturday, the 24th. That's next week, Saturday. I'm doing another show with Amanda Lawrence. And I don't know if you caught my last one with Amanda Lawrence, Jimmy. It was possibly the best show that I've done. It was absolutely life-changing for the people who listened. Oh, of course you were with Amanda, because you still gave me that moment. You were the one that dropped that pearl of incredible wisdom that actually opened up the whole show. Of course you were there. So Amanda and I getting together again. That was amazing. You never know how strong you are until being strong is all that you've got. I remember now. Yeah, so I'm with her again next Saturday. But do you know what? Every Tuesday, every Thursday, and every Sunday, 7 p.m. South African time, 5 p.m. GMT, I'm on Facebook Live, and I've got really cool guests. So be there and listen.
Yep, you certainly do. I can definitely vouch for you on that, because I've become a bit of a regular on your shows when I'm available to be able to be there and that, and I love who you. And I will definitely make sure I'm there for the Amanda show again to see if I can drop another one for you.
Another perler.
Kerry, thank you so much for taking a walk down Fascination Street with us. It's been an absolute pleasure to actually get to meet you rather than just watch you, get to know you. And honestly, from myself, Mika, and Sarah, bring it in, kids.
I'm already
bring it. We just like to say thank you very much for coming on. All right, bye. And we'll see you again soon. And I will link you those bits.
Oh, I look forward to it. Cheers, guys. Thanks so much.
Take care, sweetheart. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
So that was our interview with Kerry. it's run a lot longer than we thought.
Yeah.
So I don't think we're going to be able to get into the UFO news. So I think what we might have to do
is
we'll wrap it. But what about we go live maybe in the next couple of days, and then we'll do that in news then, because it's quite an important part and quite a bit of news. And you know, unless you've kind of been living in a cave somewhere very, very remote, then you wouldn't have heard of the Irish UFO incident.
No.
But it's taken the whole mainstream media by storm. And I don't remember in my lifetime anything doing that. Not even possibly the TTSA thing. Maybe I'm wrong there.
I'm thinking, mate, I still think it's the Millennium Falcon. Because it's from Ireland, and you know the island that was shown? Well, that's the scene where they did The Last Jedi with Luke. So
they actually filmed that island, and I think they're still filming, or they have been filming there anyway for the next installment. Anyway, T, shall we bring it to a close? Thank everybody for turning up this evening, no matter who you are, where you are. Thank you so much for giving us your time. We always appreciate you coming in and joining us. You could be doing 1,000,001 interesting things, but you're not. You're here, you're with us, giving us your time, and we really do appreciate that. We really, really do. So, Fascination Street has been brought to you in association with the PMG Goods, Truly Cosmic Clothing,
by a member of our clothing
community. And remember, enter promo code FS15 off, and you will receive 15% off every order over $40.
Dollar bill.
So from producer Sarah,
it's a goodbye from me.
From Mika,
it's a goodbye from me.
And from me, it's a goodbye. Thank you so much. See you next week, everyone.
See you later.
Bye. Oh, no, not next week.
Not next week.
No. Scrub that.
Week after.
Week after.
Yeah.